this magnificent piece going, am I dreaming? Am I still asleep?
20,000 and up. What do you think?
Holy mackerel.
Yeah.
I like it.
So you really hit the spot today. You knew what to pick.
I almost didn't bring it.
And your grandmother was not telling a lie. And she left you something great.
How much could a single piece of vintage jewelry really be worth? Would you believe that an old family necklace, a forgotten diamond ring, or a colorful gemstone could rival the value of a luxury home? Welcome to our channel. Today, we're counting down the rarest and most valuable jewelry treasures ever appraised on Antiques Roadshow, featuring extraordinary Tiffany creations, spectacular Art Deco masterpieces, rare natural pearls, historic gemstones, and breathtaking heirlooms. These remarkable discoveries prove that true luxury often hides where nobody thinks to look. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell before we begin. We're opening today's countdown with a necklace whose true value is almost impossible to guess at first glance. Some pieces of jewelry impress people with their beauty. Others leave even seasoned Antiques Roadshow experts wondering whether what they're seeing can possibly be real. This necklace belonged to the second category. It arrived as nothing more than a family heirloom, yet over the years it became one of the most memorable success stories in the history of the show.
I was blown away. It was a very special moment.
This necklace belonged to my great-grandmother, and she lived from about 1864 to 1926. And I believe at the time they were quite wealthy.
From the family story alone, the experts knew they were looking at something extraordinary. An old portrait of the owner's great-grandmother showed her wearing the very same necklace in the early 20th century, providing the kind of documented provenance collectors value above almost everything else. That remarkable history was only the beginning. A closer examination revealed a rare black opal at the center, surrounded by Russian demantoid garnets from the Ural Mountains, gemstones celebrated for their exceptional brilliance and extreme rarity. Together, they already made the necklace highly desirable, but one question still remained unanswered. Who had created such an exceptional piece?
We could take it a step further and assign this piece to Louis Comfort Tiffany. And he is known more for his stained glass, but he did also head up Tiffany Jewelers. And with his name attached, the auction estimate on a piece like this can go as high as $30,000 to $40,000.
Oh, I can't believe this.
If the necklace could truly be linked to Louis Comfort Tiffany, its importance would rise dramatically. But in the auction world, style alone is never enough. After the program, the family worked with the Tiffany archives, comparing historical records, family photographs, and ownership documents. Although the original design drawing was never found, Tiffany confirmed that the necklace was indeed a creation of Tiffany and Company. That single confirmation transformed a treasured family heirloom into a prize sought after by collectors around the world.
We ended up selling the necklace in 2013. There was a tremendous bidding war. The piece hammered, which means it sold, for $100,000. Realistically, would that piece have a higher auction estimate today? Yes, most definitely. More likely in the $150,000 to $200,000 price range.
Armed with confirmed provenance and Tiffany's authentication, the necklace eventually appeared at heritage auctions, where it attracted intense competition from collectors. What they were pursuing was far more than an extraordinary piece of jewelry. It represented exceptional gemstones, impeccable provenance, and years of careful historical research. By the end of its remarkable journey, the necklace had become one of the most celebrated discoveries ever featured on Antiques Roadshow, and remains one of the most unforgettable Tiffany masterpieces the program has ever revealed. If the Tiffany necklace amazed us because of the legendary name behind it, the next piece proves that extraordinary value can sometimes hide inside the simplest design. At first glance, this appears to be nothing more than an old gold ring with a small blue stone at its center. Yet within seconds, the experts realized they were looking at a discovery so rare that they might encounter one only once every few years.
Now, I think it's true to say that this sort of little ring with a little stone would pass a lot of people by. What do you know about it?
Only that it belongs to my mother-in-law, that's all, and she came by it by her mother-in-law, which was my late husband's grandmother.
Its family history and estimated date of around 1900 immediately placed the ring in the late Victorian, period. The gypsy setting, with the stone recessed into the gold rather than raised above it, was a popular design of the era because it offered both durability and protection. Ironically, that understated appearance is exactly why so many people would mistake it for an ordinary antique ring. For the experts, however, the real story was never the setting. Their attention immediately turned to the stone itself, and after studying its color and the way it reflected light, they reached a conclusion that completely changed the appraisal.
To see a blue diamond of this kind of color is extremely rare, and in fact perhaps one sees one per year or 2 years. They are that rare.
Unlike white diamonds, natural blue diamonds owe their color to tiny traces of boron within their crystal structure, making them among the rarest gemstones ever found. This ring was even more remarkable because the diamond still retained its original Victorian old mine cut, a feature highly prized by collectors for preserving the craftsmanship and character of its period.
I think that's a smashing colour. I think that's a beautiful depth of colour, and I personally haven't seen an old Victorian stone with that depth of colour. All I can say is that it ought to be worth, say, between £10,000 and £25,000. Is that a shock?
It's a lot more than I thought, yeah.
The combination of a natural blue diamond, its original antique cut, and more than a century of history elevated this ring far beyond the value of an ordinary family heirloom. Quiet, understated, and easy to overlook, this small Victorian ring ultimately became one of the most memorable discoveries ever featured on Antiques Roadshow, proving that the greatest treasures are often the ones hiding in plain sight. If the previous ring proved that extraordinary value can hide inside a modest piece of jewelry, the next treasure is the complete opposite. From the moment it appeared, this necklace commanded attention with its breathtaking size and unmistakable elegance. Yet what truly amazed the experts was not the sheer number of diamonds, but the remarkable woman who once wore it. This was far more than an exceptional necklace. It was a piece of history preserved for generations.
The occasion was 1959, when the freedom of the city was being bestowed upon Lady Astor, who had been the MP for 26 years prior to that, and she was presenting unexpectedly a diamond necklace that she wore frequently with earrings to the then Lady Mayoress, Mrs. Washbourne.
Lady Astor was the first woman to take a seat in the British House of Commons and one of the most influential public figures in Britain during the first half of the 20th century. Rather than keeping one of her favorite pieces of jewelry, she chose to donate it to the city of Plymouth so it could continue to be worn during important civic ceremonies. That single gesture transformed the necklace from a private possession into a lasting symbol of the community she had served.
You know, on the Antiques Roadshow we see everything, but rarely do I get presented with something that is quite so spectacular as this diamond necklace.
Beyond its astonishing scale, the necklace also showcased the finest jewelry craftsmanship of the early 20th century. Crafted in platinum and accented with sapphires among hundreds of diamonds, it could be separated into several different pieces, a feature reserved for the most luxurious creations of the era. Every detail reflected both extraordinary craftsmanship and the status of the woman for whom it had been made.
And if a piece of jewellery like this came up for auction, the international interest for it would be universal. Not only because it's a beautiful piece of jewellery, but it was owned by one of the most famous women who lived in this country.
For the experts, this was far more than one of the finest jewelry discoveries ever featured on Antiques Roadshow. It was proof that the greatest value of a treasure often lies not in its diamonds, but in the history that only it can tell. After several treasures whose value came from rare gemstones and remarkable provenance, the next collection proves that the materials themselves are sometimes the least important part of the story. Most of these pieces were made from glass, imitation pearls, and base metals. Yet collectors value them far above many fine jewelry creations. The reason is simple. They all trace back to the man who helped define Hollywood's golden age, Eugene Joseph.
Joseph was born in 1905 in Chicago. He was quite an industrious young man. Ended up in Hollywood. And he was a very personal young man. He met a fellow named Walter Plunkett. And Plunkett was a costume designer for the major motion pictures.
Before Joseph arrived, jewelry used in historical films often looked unconvincing. He changed that by creating designs that matched each period, allowing actors to look authentic without wearing priceless originals. But the decision that truly made him a Hollywood legend came afterward, and it completely changed the way movie studios acquired costume jewelry.
He never sold it to the movies, he only rented it. So he built this stockpile that could be used over and over and over again in different shapes, different movies, different composites.
Instead of selling his creations, Joseph rented them to the studios. That strategy allowed the same pieces to appear in countless productions, gradually becoming part of Hollywood history themselves. As audiences fell in love with the glamorous jewelry they saw on screen, he introduced commercial versions for the public. Even so, there remained an enormous difference between a retail copy and a piece that had actually appeared in a legendary film.
But when you put it around Vivien Leigh's neck in one of the classic movies of all time,
At a good, well-advertised auction, it would probably go $100,000 to $150,000.
That is the true power of provenance in the world of Hollywood memorabilia. This necklace is valuable not because of the materials used to make it, but because it was worn by Vivien Leigh in Gone with the Wind, one of the greatest films ever made. To collectors, it is no longer simply costume jewelry, it is a tangible piece of cinema history. After remarkable treasures linked to history in Hollywood, the next piece tells a very different story. This is not a tiara locked away in a museum or reserved for royalty. Instead, it has remained with the same family for more than a century, continuing to be worn on life's most important occasions. Its greatest significance lies not only in its hundreds of diamonds, but in the generations of family memories it continues to carry.
I cannot think of a better venue to see a tiara than at Balmoral Castle.
Absolutely, and it's been worn here.
The fact that this tiara had been worn at Balmoral Castle immediately made the story stand out. As one of the residences most closely associated with the British royal family, Balmoral is the setting for traditions where only the most elegant jewelry is considered appropriate. But that was only part of what impressed the experts. They were equally fascinated by its convertible design, allowing the tiara to be transformed into a necklace, a feature highly prized in luxury jewelry from the early 20th century.
This wonderful photograph of myself at my wedding 52 years ago. My daughter also wore it at her wedding, and my younger daughter wore it her wedding.
Unlike many antique jewels that now exist only as collectibles, this tiara has continued to serve the purpose for which it was created. Generation after generation, it has appeared at family weddings, carrying both cherished memories and a tradition that has endured for decades. The experts also identified it as an original Edwardian design, crafted in platinum with delicate mill-grain detailing, hallmarks of exceptional jewelry craftsmanship from around 1,900.
I can see this being very sought after because tiaras are still very popular.
Yes.
With the right auction, I would say this could be in excess of £60,000.
Really?
Original tiaras of this quality have become increasingly rare, especially examples that still retain both their convertible design and an unbroken family history. The combination of outstanding craftsmanship, remarkable preservation, and generations of continuous use made this piece truly exceptional in the eyes of the experts. More than a magnificent jewel, it has continued to fulfill the very purpose for which it was created over a century ago, celebrating life's happiest moments and passing those memories from one generation to the next. After remarkable jewels celebrated for their diamonds and family histories, the next treasure takes us back more than 4 centuries. This is far more than an antique ornament. It is a surviving witness to a marriage between two powerful figures of Renaissance Europe. For generations, the family knew only that an ancestor had purchased it in Paris after the First World War. The true story behind the jewel, however, turned out to be far more extraordinary.
I got it from my mother, who got it from her parents, and it goes back to my great-grandfather. And after the war, he traveled around the world and brought home some souvenirs. Picked it up in Paris in 1923.
That original bill of sale became the key to unlocking the jewel's history. It had been purchased from Arnold Seligman, one of Europe's most respected art and antique dealers of the early 20th century. More importantly, the document identified it as a marriage jewel created for Gabriel Bethlen, Prince of Transylvania, to commemorate his marriage to Catherine of Brandenburg. With such well-documented provenance, what had long been treated as a family heirloom suddenly became a fully authenticated historical artifact.
And it came from Arnold Seligman in Paris. This jewel had been made for Gabriel Bethlen, that it dates from the late 16th century. This piece is 100% correct.
This was never intended to be jewelry for decoration alone. During the Renaissance, marriage jewels symbolized devotion, social status, and the promises of marriage. Every detail carried meaning. The heart represented love, the clasped hands symbolized unity, the dove stood for fidelity, while the cross and skull reflected faith and the lifelong bond between husband and wife. Crafted in gold with rose-cut diamonds and richly colored enamel, the entire piece resembles a miniature work of Renaissance art rather than an ordinary jewel.
On the roadshow, we see very few late 16th century pieces. At auction, I would place a value on this of somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000. Well, as we would say in the business, try to find another one.
Yeah.
Authentic Renaissance jewelry has become exceptionally rare, and examples that survive with their original condition and thoroughly documented provenance are rarer still. That is why the appraiser's final remark carried more weight than any appraisal figure. In the antiques world, saying, "Try to find another one," is the highest compliment imaginable, acknowledging an object whose rarity is almost impossible to match. More than 400 years after it was created, this remarkable jewel continues to preserve and tell the story of the Renaissance exactly as it was meant to be remembered. After several remarkable pieces celebrated for their history and provenance, the next appraisal presents a very different challenge. Sitting before the experts are 3 diamond rings that appear almost identical. Each sparkles with diamonds, each reflects the unmistakable Art Deco style, and each looks convincing enough to be considered antique. But only one of them is genuinely from the 1930s. The other 2 are convincing enough to fool even experienced collectors at first glance.
We have some sumptuous jewellery for you to look at, and we're going to play basic, better, best with you, Susan.
We've got 3 diamond set rings, all inspired by Art Deco design.
Art Deco remains one of the most admired styles in jewelry history. Bold geometric lines, delicate platinum settings, and precisely arranged diamonds created a timeless look that has never truly gone out of fashion. Its enduring popularity, however, has also made it one of the most frequently copied styles ever produced. That is why experienced appraisers never judge an antique ring by appearance alone.
Again, very much the Art Deco look of baguette cut diamonds, which are the rectangular cut diamonds. That's set in platinum too. All genuine diamonds, absolutely.
The appraiser's favorite ring displayed every classic Art Deco feature, from its sharply arranged baguette-cut diamonds to its finely crafted platinum setting. Yet that perfection also highlighted the biggest challenge. Modern reproductions have become so accurate that distinguishing them from genuine period pieces often depends on subtle details hidden within the craftsmanship rather than the overall design.
So you were quite right to pick up on the fact that one of them isn't period design. The Art Deco period is so popular, and when there is a shortage of genuine Art Deco jewellery, to reproduce the style is very, very popular thing to do.
The final reveal proved that appearances alone are never enough in the world of antique jewelry. As authentic Art Deco pieces become increasingly scarce, high-quality reproductions continue to flood the market. For serious collectors, true value lies not simply in the diamonds or the design, but in the originality that has survived for nearly a century. That is why genuine Art Deco rings remain among the most sought-after treasures today, preserving a remarkable chapter in the history of 20th century jewelry design. After treasures shaped by master jewelers, the next collection owes its beauty entirely to nature. Today, a fine natural freshwater pearl can command an extraordinary price. But there was once a time when the rivers of Tennessee produced so many of them that few people thought they were especially valuable. What was once considered ordinary has since become one of America's rarest natural treasures.
I brought in a collection of Tennessee pearls that are found here in the rivers of Tennessee, and it's been handed down.
Those memories capture a time when Tennessee was one of America's best-known sources of natural freshwater pearls. Pearls of many shapes and colors were so abundant that local shops simply kept them in small cigar boxes beneath the counter instead of displaying them as valuable jewelry. That abundance, however, would not last. Within only a few decades, changes to the rivers transformed these once common gems into remarkable rarities.
My grandfather, across from where we live, is a creek bed. And they used to go over there and find them. They treated them just like they were marbles.
These don't come out of the Tennessee River very much anymore. After the Tennessee Valley Authority built the dam and everything, the mussels started to disappear.
As dams altered the flow of the Tennessee River, the freshwater mussels that produced these pearls gradually disappeared. Natural Tennessee pearls became increasingly scarce, making surviving collections far more significant than anyone could have imagined decades earlier. This collection was made even more meaningful because every pearl carried a family memory, from treasured childhood purchases to pearls passed down for weddings. Those personal stories gave the collection a value far beyond the pearls themselves.
That the ones you bought for $2.50,
right.
These pearls today could go for $300 and $400 each. The one that you got here with the rosé,
yes,
could be $2,000 today.
Wow.
Among all the pieces, the naturally colored rosé pearl stood out as the collection's greatest treasure. Its exceptional color and well-documented history make it highly desirable to collectors of American freshwater pearls. Yet what stayed with the appraiser most was not the value of the pearls themselves, but the remarkable journey behind them. Once tossed around by children like marbles, they eventually became cherished heirlooms that preserved both the natural history of the Tennessee River and the memories of the family who carefully passed them from one generation to the next. After several remarkable pieces celebrated for their history and provenance, the next treasure begins with a far more personal story. The owner did not bring this pendant to the roadshow because she believed it was a hidden fortune. She simply loved wearing it because it had belonged to her grandmother. Her grandmother always insisted that the stone at its center was a yellow diamond. For years, however, she never knew whether that was true or simply a family story meant to make the gift feel more special.
This was given to her by her second husband. Now, I understand you had other jewelry from her, but this was the piece you chose to bring to the roadshow today. Why did you pick this piece?
Because I like it. I've worn it a great deal of the time over the years since you gave it to me.
That uncertainty made the appraisal all the more intriguing. The stone was unusually large and displayed a rich yellow color, leading many people to assume it was topaz or citrine rather than a diamond. For the experts, though, color was only the beginning. After carefully examining its structure and optical characteristics, they quickly reached a conclusion that surprised everyone.
She said that it was a yellow diamond,
and did you believe her?
I didn't know because it seemed pretty big, and Granny kind of liked to, if she wanted you to like something, she sometimes sort of embellished on its attributes so that...
Her grandmother had been telling the truth all along. The center stone was indeed a natural yellow diamond weighing over 1 carat, an impressive size for a colored diamond. It also retained an old European pear-shaped cut from the early 20th century, giving it a softer, more distinctive appearance than modern diamond cuts. Even so, the biggest surprise was still waiting on the reverse of the pendant.
When I turned it over, it has a signature. It's Tiffany and Company. I even think this was designed by Louis Comfort because it has that kind of wonderful wire work. So now we've got to appraise it. It's a tough appraisal because it's rare. $20,000 and up.
A tiny Tiffany and Company hallmark completely transformed the story. The combination of a natural yellow diamond, an early 20th century design, and the Tiffany name elevated the pendant into an entirely different class for collectors. Yet the most memorable moment was never the appraisal itself. It was the realization that the grandmother had never exaggerated. What she passed down was not simply a beautiful pendant, but a genuine treasure that had quietly remained in the family for many years. After a series of remarkable heirlooms revealed through provenance and family history, the final treasure on today's countdown begins with nothing more than an old family story. For generations, the family had been told that the stone in this ring was a yellow diamond from Brazil. There were no certificates, no purchase records, and no documents to prove it. But sometimes, stories passed down through a family turn out to be far more accurate than anyone expects.
It was my great-grandfather's. It's just been passed down through the family and it now belongs to my brother. We've just been told that it's a Brazilian yellow diamond, and apart from that, we don't know a thing.
The experts quickly realized that the family's story was surprisingly believable. Long before South Africa became the world's leading diamond producer, Brazil was the primary source of diamonds for decades. The stone's rich yellow color and its antique cut both match the period when Brazilian diamonds dominated the market, suggesting that the family tradition might indeed be correct.
Well, it's actually interesting you should say that it's Brazilian. It's very likely that this diamond did actually originate from Brazil. They find white, yellow, all colours, and this is actually quite a good colour yellow.
A closer examination revealed even more. The diamond featured a 19th century cushion cut, while the platinum mounting dated to around 1910. That meant the gemstone itself was considerably older than the ring that now held it. Large diamonds were often removed from older settings and remounted as fashions changed, allowing exceptional stones to remain in use across multiple generations, rather than being confined to a single design.
It's a 19th century cut. It's more what's called cushion shape. Actually, the stone is much older than the setting. Well, the setting probably dates from around 1910 because it's platinum.
Within just a few minutes, what had seemed like little more than a family legend was confirmed by the evidence preserved within the diamond itself. From its likely Brazilian origin and 19th century cut to its early 20th century platinum setting, every detail came together to reveal a remarkable journey across generations. What makes this ring so special is not only the rarity of its yellow diamond, but the fact that it has preserved its own history even after the paperwork disappeared long ago. After a series of stories centered on individual treasures, the next appraisal stands out for a very different reason. Instead of a single remarkable piece, this collection brings together an entire lifetime of jewelry and accessories passed from mother to daughter. Each item reflects a different chapter of its owner's life. Together, they create a remarkable timeline that spans nearly half a century of 20th century jewelry design.
This belonged to my mother, and she passed away. It was 2 years in April, and she was originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and she was quite a social, beautiful woman who was very interested in fashion and entertaining.
I was drawn to this collection today because it's a wonderful snapshot of 4 of the major jewelry periods or movements.
What immediately caught the appraiser's attention was not the number of pieces, but the way they captured the evolution of jewelry across several decades. From an elegant Art Deco brooch with its bold geometric lines, to the dramatic retro designs that followed the Second World War, and finally the refined elegance of the 1950s and 1960s, every piece represents an important chapter in jewelry history. It is rare for a private collection to preserve such a complete journey through changing styles.
Just the gold alone weighs 300 pennyweights, which today is worth $14,000. And finally, we have this beautiful pendant that is made by Van Cleef & Arpels. The emerald, based on the color and the quality and the inclusions, to me, appears to be a Colombian emerald.
Among the highlights were an Italian gold evening bag and a Van Cleef & Arpels pendant. One impressed with its extraordinary gold craftsmanship, while the other combined a Colombian emerald with the signature of one of the world's most prestigious jewelry houses. Individually, each piece would attract collectors. Together, they reveal the taste, elegance, and lifestyle of a woman whose passion for beautiful objects lasted throughout her life.
I would expect the entire collection to bring about $38,000.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. She'd be so pleased.
As the appraisal came to an end, the most memorable moment was not the collection's value, but the daughter's response. Rather than thinking about money, she simply smiled and said that her mother would have been delighted to know these cherished possessions were still so deeply appreciated. In many ways, that is the true legacy of this collection. Beyond its remarkable craftsmanship and beautiful design, it preserves the memories, personality, and lifelong love of elegance belonging to one extraordinary woman. After a series of remarkable jewelry treasures, the next heirloom represents a different kind of prestige. During the 1980s, few watches carried the same status as the Rolex President. With its gold case and unmistakable design, it became the timepiece of choice for successful business leaders around the world. But for today's owner, this watch means far more than luxury. It is the watch his father wore through nearly every memory the family still holds dear.
It's a gold Rolex, diamond set bezel, diamond set dial. It's an iconic watch from the 1980s.
It's my father's watch, so he passed away in the late 80s, and then obviously it's been passed down to myself. It's now my watch.
The watch accompanied his father throughout the years of building his business before eventually being passed down to the next generation. What fascinated the experts was not only the family story, but also the model itself. Officially known as the Rolex Day-Date and more commonly called the Rolex President, it was the first wristwatch to display the full day of the week on the dial. Combined with its famous president bracelet, it soon became an international symbol of success and achievement.
The model is called a Rolex President. If you're a successful business person in the 1980s, this would certainly be the watch that you would be wearing.
For Rolex collectors, however, the watch itself is only part of the story. Its value is also shaped by everything that accompanies it, from the original presentation box and guarantee papers to the factory components that have been carefully preserved. Complete sets like this have become increasingly difficult to find and are always highly sought after. Even so, what impressed the appraiser most was hearing how the son remembered his father, because in almost every family photograph, the Rolex was right there on his wrist.
You've got the original guarantee certificates. The watch itself, at auction, you're probably dealing with around £12,000 to £15,000.
And sell it though.
The owner's final response gave the appraisal its most meaningful ending. Even knowing the watch carries considerable market value, he has never considered selling it. To him, it is far more than an iconic Rolex. It is a lasting reminder of the man who wore it every day. That is perhaps what makes family heirlooms so special. They do more than preserve the passage of time, they preserve the people, the memories, and the stories that no amount of money could ever replace. After several heirlooms pass down through generations, the next discovery begins in a much more unexpected place, a simple estate sale. The owner had only accompanied a friend when he noticed this butterfly brooch and decided to buy it as a gift for his wife. What seemed like a thoughtful purchase soon led the experts into a story that stretched from the reign of Queen Victoria to the legendary opal fields of Australia.
I was asked by a friend to go to an estate sale, and there were quite a few higher-end, nicer items, and I was able to purchase this at the auction. I bought it for my wife, and that's 2015.
The first feature that caught the appraiser's eye was the collection of opals covering the butterfly's wings. Their brilliant play of color suggested they most likely came from Lightning Ridge, Australia's most famous source of fine opals. Stones of this quality have long been prized by collectors, yet the brooch's appeal extended beyond the gemstones themselves. Its graceful butterfly design reflected the unmistakable elegance of the Victorian era.
This type of opal, where you see all this fire and these flashes, most likely came from an area in Australia called Lightning Ridge. On the Mohs hardness scale, it's a relatively soft stone. So you have to be careful when you work with it. It's delicate.
During Queen Victoria's reign, butterflies symbolized renewal and hope, while opals regained popularity after the Queen herself dismissed the old superstition that they brought bad luck. As the examination continued, the appraiser found that the brooch had survived in remarkably original condition. From its ruby eyes and old European cut diamond to its gold and silver setting, every detail reflected the craftsmanship of the late 19th century. More than a century later, it remains a beautiful example of Victorian jewelry at its finest.
So this reaction to the UV light, man hasn't altered the state of the stone to make it better.
Great.
It tells me it's all original. Looks English to me, looks Victorian, probably 1875 through the early 1900s. I'm gonna go with, at auction, $3,000 to $5,000 today.
Great. Wonderful. Excellent.
What makes this brooch truly remarkable is not simply the value of its opals or its age. It is proof that some of the most rewarding discoveries appear where few people expect them. Purchased on impulse at an estate sale, this butterfly brooch turned out to be an authentic Victorian treasure, preserving the beauty, craftsmanship, and artistic spirit of an entire era within a single piece of jewelry.